Hello and welcome to jasonnewland.com. My name is Jason Newland. This is Q&A Friday. Ooh, Q&A Friday. Please only listen when you can safely close your eyes. And I just want to say thank you to Diana for your kind PayPal gift. Thank you very much. I'm just trying to think what's happened since yesterday. No, nothing. Yeah, I'm trying to, nothing, just trying to think. No, can't think of anything. Can't think of anything that's happened ever. Today, or later today, is the heavyweight boxing championship of the world. I'll be watching that. Daniel Dubois against Alexander Usyk. And I'll be watching that. Also, there's another world title fight tonight, which is Bam Bam Rodriguez. Oh, what's going on there? Okay, Cliff Richard. Okay, let's just... Also, one that I will not be paying for, I'll watch it on YouTube, is Manny Pacquiao is fighting for a world title after about 75 years of not actually fighting anyone. That's going to be weird. Oh, that's strange. But saying that, that's a really, really good bill. Damn it. Oh. Yeah, but I can't. It's it's in the middle of the night. It's on Amazon Prime. That's confusing me. I'm sure all networks, DAZN. Saturday night, Jesse Rodriguez. Oh, because they still call him Bam Bam, but it's actually, yeah. So this is on DAZN. Jesse Rodriguez, which is he's called Bam Bam, is defending his world title, or two world titles, against Pumela Cafu. So I can watch that. It doesn't cost any extra. I'll watch that. I want to watch all of them. Oh well. We will see. I'm definitely watching Alexander Usyk against Daniel Dynamite Dubois. Yes. Because that's on during the daytime. Well, it's on this evening, UK time. The others start probably 2 o'clock in the morning, UK time, and I'll be honest with you, I think I might be asleep. Yes. Right, so let's move away from that. It's a Q&A Friday. It's raining today, which I don't mind. I don't have a lot of say in it, really, do I? It's not really within my personal power. I managed to take Vinny out and we missed a little shower. It started to rain and we got back in time to not get wet. So it will be a little bit hit and miss, I think, today as far as taking them out. But I've got the weekend off. I'm not going up to the hospital unless there's an emergency, of course, but I won't be going up there this weekend. I want to have a little tidy up of my flat because it's messy, and I'm charging up the scrubber. I've got this mechanical scrubber thing that I can use to clean the sinks and the toilet and the bath and stuff like that. There's different headings on for each one. So I'm charging it up now, and I'm gonna have a little bit of a scrub later of the bathroom sink, the kitchen sink and the kitchen counters. Try and have a little tidy up, Maybe do a little bit of vacuum cleaning. Minimal. Minimal. And I'd like to, I don't know. I tell you what concerns me a little bit. I just don't want to be. Yeah, I just want to make this place a little bit better, a little bit nicer. And if I put a bit of effort in, I could, I could make the door frames nice. I could, save up and put new doors on to the different rooms, because the doors at the moment, I still got the same ones I had on 10 years ago, and they've been there probably 10 years or 20 years before that, and they were already all scratched to bits because the previous person I think she had 2 massive dogs, so the whole, it's the doors are just, they're not the most pleasant to look at. I don't spend a lot of time looking at them, to be honest. No, I don't really. I don't just sit there in front of the door and just look at it and think, oh, no, it's not a hobby, but I still see them. I sometimes think it would be quite nice to just gut this whole flat, just get rid of all the stuff. Not get rid of everything, but redecorate it, put a new decent carpet down, nice curtains, just little things like that. A decent settee, because the one I got now is falling apart. Although it's fairly comfortable. Perhaps just get myself a lazy boy, something like that, because or an equivalent to that. I had a cheap version of that when I very first moved in. I think it cost me about 150 quid, and I had it for quite a few years. It was alright. Eventually it broke and fell apart. Would you imagine anything that I sit on is going to eventually fall apart? I don't know. Okay, moving on from that. But yeah, I'm gonna have a little look. And some of the walls they've still got, looks like mould, but it's not. It's just the backing felt from when I had soundproofing up over there. I took them off to put them into my shed, which I had in my bedroom. Didn't I, Vinny? You never got to see the bedroom shed, did you? No, you didn't. It was gone before you moved in. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. You never got to see the bathroom shed, the bedroom shed, or the kitchen shed. So that's gonna... I probably need some kind of... one of those heat scrapers, torch scrapers things. I probably need something like that. Yeah, I would. Yes, Vinny. Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Are you not going to have your breakfast, Vin? You're not going to eat your breakfast, Vin? No? No? Why? woke up this morning. I went to bed about 3 minutes past 10 it was. Woke up, I got up out of bed just after 6 this morning. And Vinny was in the living room. He was in here, asleep on the settee. So, I don't know why. I do know why. It's because he wanted to come and sleep in here. But I don't know why he wanted to come and sleep in here. Because he only ever does things he wants to do. He doesn't do anything he doesn't like. Do you, Vinny? Don't pretend you can't hear me now. His ears like pricked right up. You're listening to me. I know you are. I know you are. Oh dear. So yeah, I'm not gonna be going anywhere. I did my... Oh, because this is Saturday. This is Friday. Q&A Friday is Saturday. So I didn't make a recording yesterday because I started to think, wait a minute. I made a recording yesterday, so there's no point telling you what the latest is. But I can tell you a little bit about the latest. The main thing is, I left here at 9 o'clock yesterday morning to go to the hospital. Got there in good time. It's fine. Got there probably 10 past 10. So that's fair enough. Left the hospital about 10 past 12 because Uncle Sausages had his dinner. So when he gets his dinner, I leave so that he can, have a bit of peace. I see he was watching the golf. I wasn't really needed, to be fair. That's what he was focusing on, which is good because he was looking forward to it. He's been looking forward to it for over a month, and it started on Thursday. So he's watching that, half listening to me, half watching the golf. He did say something that made me laugh though, because he's got... I don't want to use the word paranoid, because he doesn't like that word, but he's basically without going too deeply into medical stuff, his body is not filtering his blood. Okay, so those toxins are going into his brain, and it's a very standard thing in his situation. Happens to millions of people, and it's causing a thing called HE, which I can't remember what it stands for, and it isn't home economics. I don't know what it is. I know what it is. I've been studying. Oh, this is ridiculous. I know way more about the liver than I ever wanted to in my life. Before, all I knew is I didn't like liver. It tasted horrible. That's all I knew. I didn't realise that it had a function. And then when you realise what its function is, how could you eat it? When you realise, like, that's not something that, yeah, no. But hey, he's not quite, he's got a few, like, I'm trying to be careful how I word this. He thinks about a week ago, he thought the hospital, it's the beginning of this week, he thought the hospital were messing with his food, because he said the food tastes different, they're adding stuff to the food, and then he's concerned about the medication he's getting given, and why is he taking it, and he started hiding the tablets. So I sorted that side out. I promised him on Thursday night that I would come into hospital, speak to the nurse, get the nurse to come in and speak to him, explain to him exactly what the medication was for, what the medication is that he's getting and what it's for, and whether he needs to take it or not, in a way for him to understand and feel safe. And the other issue was, he told me that one of the carers or nurses, it's hard to know who's who now, because I think in hospitals it seems, just from what I've seen, that the support workers or the care workers are pretty much doing a nurse's job now. Or and like the nurse is kind of in charge of them. There's a lot of, and it's hard to know who's who now. Which ones are nurses? Not that it makes any difference, but they're doing all the. I think the only thing they don't, you don't see a care worker generally with a telescope around the neck, so they don't have that. But they seem to do everything else. I'm not sure whether or not they take bloods or stuff, but then when you've got the canicular thing, it's like permanently in their arm, they can take blood. Anyone could take blood from that, couldn't they? Because it's quite easy, I imagine. But not that I've ever done it. He wouldn't let me. I was like, please, Uncle Sos, just let me just take a bit of blood. It's fun for me. He said, it's not fun for me. Okay. I said, I'll let you play with one of my Lego toys. He said, what? I said, I'll let you play with one of my Lego toys. He said, no, I heard what you said, but what do you mean Lego toys? Lego is a toy. It's not a Lego toy. It's a Lego. You build something with a Lego set. Yeah. Yeah, but no one calls it a Lego toy. Well, obviously I do. And then he went on a rant about Legos, and Lego isn't just for kids, so therefore it's not a toy. It's for adults too, and everyone can be creative, and it's a great way to relax, to find some kind of mindfulness. In fact, possibly Lego, and then he started talking about jigsaw puzzles. Lego and jigsaw puzzles were around long before mindfulness meditation became a thing in the West. And I said, well, what's that got to do with your tablets? And he said, nothing. Anyway, he said one of the nurses told him that he had to clear up after himself. So if there was any kind of situation, he had to clear up. So I went and spoke to the nurse, and I explained to the nurse what he said to me. And she said, do you know who it was that said that to him? I said, no, I don't. So it was wrong. They shouldn't have said that. But apparently they also do try and encourage self-sufficiency, or if that's the right word. But to be fair, I don't think that's really an issue anymore. If someone's going... I don't know, I'm just thinking, if someone's in a situation where they're in hospital and they have to learn to cope with a new type of lifestyle, then helping them to learn to do things themselves. If they're going home, they're going to be on their own and live the next 20, 30 years. But he's not in that situation. And he's an elderly man, and it's like, I just think all people deserve respect, but in that situation, even more. I don't know why, but just, there's something different about that kind of situation. This is like a short-term, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, it's got its own room. It's nice. It's better than some rooms that I've lived in. Seriously. I would have been happy living in a room like that. And not necessarily an environment, but getting food, getting someone cleaning the bathroom. I'd get a big TV in there. I don't know if he's allowed to put his own TV in there, but if he was renting the room, then he could do what he wanted, couldn't he? So he's on the short list to be getting a getting into a care home. That seems to be the next step, because the hospice isn't probably going to happen because of the waiting list. So they're going to try and get him into a care home at the first opportunity. So he's now been moved to a room on his own, and I'm hoping by the end of next week he'll be moved, because they're really on it, which is good. And he'll be happy, and he seems a bit happier now being in that room. He's not distracted by other people. He's not quite as annoyed. However, yesterday he was in good spirits, and he's got the golf on while he's talking to me. He's pretending to listen to what I'm saying. I can see he just keeps looking down at the golf on the laptop or on the iPad, and he's watching it live on Sky Sports. And the food comes out, so I don't rush off as soon as the food gets there. I'm still talking to him, and he had, what did he have? Oh, he had a potato, a jacket potato, 2 little bits of butter, the ones in the wrappers, tin, like, I don't know, foil wrapper things, and he had a little tub, well, actually it wasn't tiny, but it was a tub of tuna fish. And then he also had a bowl of custard with some pudding in it. So I said, do you need a hand? Do you want me to do anything? So he said, yeah. And I cut his potato open for him. And I said, be careful, it's hot. And he said, stop treating me like a child. And then he had a bite. And, oh, it's hot, why didn't you tell me? It's like, oh. No, so I cut the potato open. I asked him what he wanted next. So he wanted the butter put on. So I put 1 bit of butter on each bit. Let that soak in a bit. And then I said, George, you want done with the tuna fish? Now, he could have done all this himself, probably. But it felt quite nice doing it for him. It seems like a nice thing to do. I don't know why, and plus he likes bossing me around. No, so I put some tuna fish on top of the potato, and I didn't mash it, but I kind of pushed it in a little bit, to make it a little bit whatever. Just, I guess, how I would have done it myself. And he said to me, I'm not sure if I want to eat that. I said, well, okay, well, you've had a jacket potato before? He said, yeah, of course. I said, have you had tuna fish on a jacket potato? And he said, he mumbled something, and he said, why don't you try it? I said, no, I'm not hungry, because this was like I'd had a little snack. I had a croissant, actually. I got a croissant from Costa's. Didn't get a coffee because it was so hot yesterday. Really sticky, and I didn't find it particularly pleasant heat-wise. It wasn't. Yeah, it was. I remember when the sun was on me, it was too hot. It was kind of a little bit uncomfortable for my head. So I said, no, you're fine. I'm all right. I've already had a croissant like half an hour ago. I'm not hungry. And he said, oh, okay then. And he seemed to be hesitant, but then he took a bit and he said, I've got to be careful because the last thing I had was too hot. And I said, well, why don't you touch it with your tongue gently, like you know, and just make sure that it's not too hot before you put it in your mouth. And he said, okay, and he put a big bit on his fork. He just put it right in his mouth. He didn't test it or nothing. It's like, that is going to burn you if you do that. Bernie. And but I can't tell someone else how to eat their food. I mean, he's been doing it a lot longer than me, hasn't he? But yeah, I'd be a bit careful, especially with potatoes. They really can hold the heat. So, but he seemed fine. And he said, yeah, it's all right. And he pointed at the dessert. And I said, oh, yeah. He said, I said, what is it? He said, it's custard, isn't it? What's in it? He said, do you want to try that? I said, what? He said, do you want to try some of the dessert? I said, no, I really don't like custard. It's not I don't like custard. I cannot eat custard. It is beyond no. That's a no-no, like a complete no-no. Like, no. That would be, it's going to be, that, yeah, it would be like eating something, if you think something that you really would never eat, that's the same for me. It's the same as, yeah, no. Yeah. See, if you put a bowl of custard, chucked it in a bin, and then put all their rubbish on top of it, and you pulled the custard bowl out and said, and it's got all full of dirt and rubbish, would you eat that? It would be the same response as if it was straight out of the oven, or wherever custard comes from, wherever it's born. I don't know. Just don't. I can't. It's one of those things. We've all got our little things, haven't we? Some people don't like crocodiles. I don't like custard. Don't judge me, baby. So, and I said, no, I don't like custard. I didn't go into a big thing. Didn't talk about crocodiles or list other things that some people might like that I'm okay with that people don't like, and all that stuff. Didn't mention Marmite. Generally. And he looked at me. He smiled, and I'm like, okay. He seemed in good spirits, so I'm not gonna rock the boat on that one. He seemed in a better frame of mind than he had done all week, or all month really, but all week definitely. And he said, yeah, he started talking about Henry VIII. I said, okay, I'm not quite sure why he's talking about Henry VIII. It seemed a bit random, How did he manage to start? He just started talking about Henry VIII. And he started talking, and I wasn't really with him where he was going with this. And he started talking about how Henry VIII had a food taster. And then I remembered my history. All kings generally, I think, back in the old days, used to have food tasters to make sure that the food was safe, that they weren't being poisoned. He was using me as a food taster. He was making sure that the food wasn't poisoned. And when I realised what he was talking about, I couldn't stop laughing. It was proper belly laugh, and he was laughing as well, because he found it funny, but I just couldn't believe that. And he meant it as well. He really wanted me to test his food, and I just found it hilarious that I said, okay, so what about me then? So if the food was poisoned, what about me? And he started laughing even more. Like, okay, thanks. So that was kind of a funny thing. Another one, he said, this was a couple of nights back, because he'd been having possible hallucinations, maybe weird dreams or something. But anyway, this is previous to that. And this night he said, well, in the morning he said, "Oh, last night I was orbited into space." And I said, I think, perhaps he dreamt that he was in space, or he hallucinated that he was in space. Seeing the stars, the moon, galaxy, Milky Way, whatever, all that stuff. And I'm thinking, and so I'm talking to him like, okay, just going along with it. So I'm thinking he's talking about how he imagined he was actually in space, and he either hallucinated it or maybe he dreamt it and it was so real he believed it was true. That's not what he was talking about at all. What he was really trying to tell me is he was woken up by the biggest fart of his life. His bum woke him up. And he said it shot him. He banged his head on the ceiling. It was that powerful. It's like, it's hard to keep track. But yeah, so that's Uncle Sausages. Yeah, yesterday, I'm going back on Monday. I've got the weekend off. I need the weekend off. This is my time. I'm not going to be around any humans at all, if at all possible. Me and Vinny. Nothing else. No one else. Pure bliss. Lovely. No dramas, no conversations. And to be fair, I'm usually the one that overtalks. I'm an oversharer. And if someone's sitting there quietly and they're in a room with me, they're quiet, I will just keep talking. And that's why I'd be terrible in an interrogation room. If I was being interrogated, all they'd have to do is just sit there and just look at me, and they'd get my entire life story. So I was hoping the rain would stop the neighbours from being particularly loud, but they seem to have still doing that. So you might be able to hear that in the background. There's really nothing I can do about it. It's one of those things. The only thing I could do is not make a recording. And I don't want to do that, because this is what I'm supposed to be doing, isn't it? Yeah. I left about 12:10 yesterday, got on a bus, waited for a while for a bus, and got to where I was. It's a two bus journey. Got there, got to the bus stop I was going to get off. I had a choice of 3 different buses going past, so I thought, that's why I went there. I was there for about an hour waiting before a bus actually turned up. Loads of other buses that weren't going where I was going. In fact, the bus that I got, that same number bus came past me about 4 times during that period. And I couldn't even see the bus numbers very clearly from a distance. So a couple of times I might put my hand out to stop the bus, and then when it got closer, realised, no, thanks. And I waved it off. Another time I stopped the bus, asked, because I didn't know the number, I didn't know what it was. So I said, do you go to my home? And they said no. But then eventually a bus did come, because I'm here. But I got home 3:20. Yes, it took about 2.5 hours to get home. It was tiring. Ooh, that's nice. So, yeah, I came home. I had something to eat. I had a little chat with one of my neighbours. Then I went and had a nap. And I did feel better after the nap. I did. Then I watched what did I watch? But he watched a bit of TV. Watched part of a movie, and I watched the end this morning. And then I went to bed just after 10. Yeah. Listened to the radio. I fell asleep. Woke up at 1. Did a wee. Turned the radio off. And then woke up again at 6. Or I might have woke up at 3 and then 6. So, and then that was it. So, you're now up to date on my entire life. You see now what I call it, let me bore you to sleep, because there's nothing interesting or exciting about anything that happens to me. It's all boring. So let's go through the questions. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hope asks me, favourite candy? Do you have any? What are they? Well, thanks, Hope. We don't call it candy in this country. I know what you mean when you say candy, so you mean chocolate, don't you? Chocolate and sweets. So, yeah, we don't call it that. I'm just think. So chocolate is candy, but what are sweets? Because you got sweets like, boiled sweets, humbugs, for example, or bonbons, jelly babies, things like that. Would that come under candy as well? So I'm gonna assume, if I think of chocolate bars, okay, so we just call them sweets, really. That's what we call them, because I guess because they're sweet. Yeah, it kind of comes under the umbrella of sweets in this country. But I'm not going to be pedantic, because I know what you mean. The only candy I've ever had, because I have been sent stuff from America in the past, and it was a couple of things. What were those little, I think it was Gershie. Was it a Gershie bar? And those little Twiglet Dinkle things that are just very sweet but yummy. I think the sweets, chocolate and stuff like that in America is possibly way better than in this country. I mean, I don't know. I've never been to America. I hope to go one day. I don't know how I've got no idea if I'll ever be able to do it, but if I ever go on tour, if I was to go on tour, I need to have enough money coming in to cover the cost of the travel, to cover the cost of the accommodation, and the expenses. So if you could organise a nice tour for me, anyone, who would want to see me blow? Can you imagine me putting out, got a tour, and I imagine if I posted it on Facebook, I'll probably get maybe 4 likes. That's just like, yeah, okay. That's really, I don't think people would really want to do a meet and greet. Because in a way, I do a meet and greet every time I do a recording, don't I? I don't think I really need to be in the same room. I think it might be distracting seeing me in person, especially if you don't know what I look like. If all you got is the voice, and you imagine that I'm like blonde and 6'9" and hairy like a gorilla, I don't know. However you imagined I am, it's probably not going to be how I am, because no voice, I say none, but generally, in my experience, voices rarely match the person physically. If you hear the voice first, if I think if I meet someone, sometimes a voice matches them perfectly. Like, yeah, you got that voice is perfect for you. But then, if you think about someone like what was his name? Darth Vader, man. The voice of Darth Vader. You could, like, that voice matched him. But then, once it's like all we know, isn't it? Earl Grey Jones or something. Or Morgan Freeman. The voice matches his face. But then Pee Wee Herman's voice would match Morgan Freeman's face if that was his normal voice, if that's all we knew. So, in the Shawshank Redemption, or whatever it was, Morgan Freeman said, "We got to get out of here. We got to get out." I don't know. However, Pee Wee Herman talks. I did like the way he talks. Made me laugh. And it'd be almost like, okay, that makes sense because you're used to it. But if you didn't know and you heard Morgan Freeman's voice, which is Pee Wee Herman's voice, and you heard that on the radio or, audio-wise, and you didn't know what he looked like, and then you saw Morgan Freeman, you might think, that doesn't look like his voice. Or that doesn't sound like his voice. That's not what I would imagine he would look like. I suppose, but I'm thinking Morgan Freeman, if you had his voice and not knowing what he looks like, and I almost feel like you wouldn't be surprised, but then that's just because we know him. He's been around for so long. Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? But yeah, anyway, my voice does not match me. I've actually got a friend who likes listening to my voice, which is weird. She listens to my recordings. This is someone that I've known for, over 20 years. And she'll listen to my recordings when she's at home. And why? Why? I like your voice. Yeah, but come on. Stop it. Favourite candy. So I'm going to go for favourite chocolate bars, bearing in mind I'm not supposed to eat chocolate anymore. I'm going to go... my go-to is, it's quite weird too, and they're kind of similar in a way. Crunchy bars and Maltesers. And both got honeycomb and chocolate. It's a different flavour, different taste, but it's still, honeycomby. I used to love eating honeycomb, just honeycomb, when I was 17, 18, about 18, yeah. And I'd take a bar, be wrapped up in plastic. I'd take a bar to work with me. And I'd have it in my break time, and literally it would be stuck to my teeth. My mouth would be stuck shut for about 3 hours. literally, it was, it was fun. Just loved the taste. And sometimes I would lick it and make it into, do you know people who do the, what do they call it, whittling, where they have like a little knife and a bit of wood and they turn it into something. I did that with the honeycomb, but instead of a knife I used my tongue, and I would shape it and turn it into, I don't know, just a distorted honeycomb bar. Really, it didn't resemble anything, but I enjoyed it. It was my temporary hobby. I used to see, I don't eat sweets much anymore due to the fact that I'm not really supposed to because of my sugar levels, blood sugar levels, and my weight. Again, I was sort of losing some weight, so I stopped having sugar in my tea, and I don't eat. There was a time when I'd have like 2 chocolate bars a day, and I'd be drinking at least 4 cans of Coke a day. I don't do any of that anymore. I don't drink Coke anymore. If I have a fizzy drink, which has been a bit more regular lately because I've been going up to hospital and it's been hot and water is okay, but I was getting cans or bottles of drink for Uncle's sausages, so I ended up getting myself a Fanta. I quite like Fanta, but I don't drink Coke, and so I don't drink Fanta all the time. I did every day for a couple of weeks probably, but now I'm realising that actually water's just better when it's hot. I like, for myself personally. Bonbons. So they're like icing sugar on top of toffee with balls, and sometimes they're flavoured. So I quite like the plain ones, strawberry ones. Yeah, that's kind of the ones I liked. Haven't had them for years. What other things? I used to love a curly whirly, but again, and also because I'm trying to kind of be a bit more careful with my teeth as well, so I try to sort of keep down a little bit when it comes to eating chocolate. And with a chocolate bar, you can eat it and just, it's gone. But if you eat something that's chewy, then that sugar's kind of staying around the teeth and stuff. I don't know if that makes sense. I mean, last time I had a curly whirly, I put it in the freezer, got it out, all looking forward to it. Oh, I was bit into it, and it got stuck in my teeth, and when I removed it, it also removed my filling. So that was not a good idea. And I think I did it another time and it broke my tooth in half because I didn't learn the first time. That wasn't the second bite. This was like a few months later. Okay. I thought by then, and you say, well, I'll just have the curly whirly without freezing it. The problem is curly whirlies they're very meltable, and I'm not really into melted chocolate unless it's on ice cream. So melted curly whirlies weren't really my favourite thing. I suppose I could have put it in the fridge, because it wouldn't be like rock hard the way it was when it was in the freezer, but it wouldn't be warm and soggy and dripping. Ugh. That doesn't sound very pleasant, does it? I'm trying to think. I could list all. I don't have yeah, I'd say probably my favourite chocolate bar is a crunchy. So my chocolate bar, as in, yeah, be a crunchy. I do like bars of chocolate, just chocolate as well. So Galaxy, I like that. Cadbury's bar of chocolate, I like that. Fruit and nut, I like that. Um, One of my favourite chocolate bars from the past, and I haven't eaten it for yeah, quite a long time, maybe years, is a Toblerone. I used to love a Toblerone, and they do. It's a taste. It's got nugget in it or nougat. I call it nugget, and it's very tasty. Oh, I used to eat them fairly regularly. One of the reasons I don't eat as much chocolate as I used to is because I no longer go to the petrol station. I used to go there every day. It was more a Luke thing. I'd go over there with him. So we'd take the boys for a walk, you know, and just I'd go and get something. I was able to take Vinny in there, so we'd go in there. I'd get something, he'd get something, or I'd get something for him, and he'd stay outside with Logie. And quite often they had these special offers, two for £1.50 chocolate bars. So I'd get one for him, one for me, and that'd be like a daily thing. And I kind of it because some of those yeah, another I like is I do love a chocolate flake or the Galaxy version, which is I can't remember what it's called. I've eaten one. I've been eating them for 40 years. I still don't remember what they're called. But they're nice. They're crumbly as well, but not as crumbly as a flake. So I like Cadbury's flake. The weird thing about it is I like them, but on an ice cream I love them. Like an ice cream with a flake makes it so much more appealing. And that flake it's all about the flake. Yeah, a flake on its own. If it's cold, I don't like warm flakes. If it's cold, it's nice. It's really, ooh. It's out of the fridge, not the freezer, out of the fridge. Although I suppose I could put it in the freezer. I want one now. I have no chocolate there's no chocolate in here. I've got no biscuits, no chocolate, no treats. Even he hasn't got any treats. All his treats are gone now. Damn it. If I had biscuits, I'd be eating them. Honestly, just the odd biscuits. I mean, what I like to get is these stem ginger biscuits, and it's from Sainsbury's, but they're, what do they call it? As good as it gets, or it's their home brand, but it's at a high level. That makes sense to you. And they're a little bit more expensive, but they're so nice. And they're big old things, and they're ginger stem, and I have them with a cup of tea, and it's just oh yeah. But if I bought some the other day, they'd all be gone. If I honestly, within a day or 2 days of buying them, they're gone. So I didn't get any this week. I managed to just spend just the amount that I was able to spend, just on some milk and some breakfast cereal and not a lot else, to be fair. Not much more. A few little bits of bread, a couple of frozen bits. Yeah. I'm just trying to think. I used to love Fry's cream, chocolate cream, what are they called? Oh yeah, chocolate. Don't get them till the beginning of the year, but the chocolate eggs, Cadbury's cream egg. I've been eating them forever. But again, it's only really what I get from the supermarket now online, because I don't go to the petrol station anymore. So it's not like a daily thing anymore, which is good. It's a good thing, but I had to. Yeah, I was told at the beginning of the year, last year, that I needed to lose weight because of my blood sugar level, so I did. Lost over a stone. Favourite candy? Do you have any? No. So that was my next answer. No. I hope I have no candy. I have no chocolate. Oh, Smarties is what I love. Smarties. Oh yeah, love Smarties. I tell you what I do like, but I also don't like. I love the taste of Bounty, a Bounty bar. I love the smell, love the taste. But I struggle to be able to swallow coconut. It has I just can't. I can, but it's almost like the coconut gets in my mouth and it sucks all of the liquid out of my body into the coconut. I mean, I'm sure that's not happening, but I have to have a drink in order to eat the coconut. But it tastes so good. So I don't eat the Bounty bar because although it tastes amazing, smells lovely, yeah, too much chewing involved, and I just can't. It just doesn't seem to go down so well as easy. I just remembered when I was a kid, I wasn't allowed to have alcohol. We used to have wine at the dinner table, and at Christmas maybe I'd have a bit more wine than I normally would have. But we didn't have, I wasn't drinking whiskey or anything like that. But at Christmas, we used to have these liqueurs, these chocolate liqueurs, and I would eat as many as I was able to. And I probably was a little bit tipsy on them. It was good. It's very good. Oh yes. Hoo-ha. I'm trying to think what other chocolate bars I like. Just visualising. Oh, chocolate eclairs. Love myself some chocolate eclairs. So these are basically individual sweets. They're wrapped up. And it's basically they're toffee on the outside and chocolate on the inside, but so nice. Oh, so nice. I can get through a pack like really quickly because it's like one after another. And you can mix in a bit of mint as well, which changes the taste. It's just, really nice. Just trying to think what other... I used to, in 2009, I went through a period when I was eating Werther's Original sweets. And they're like boiled sweets, but toffee. Tastes so good. So good. And then they brought out toffee, Werther's Original toffee, which you could just chew, like, like toffee. So good. So nice. But that was like a short-term thing. I stopped eating them after a while, but I used to eat them regularly for a few months. I don't know why I stopped, really. I remember one thing I used to do when I was a paper boy. I had this little period of time when I'd go and collect my papers in the afternoon after school, and I would have some... What did I have? Toffees and soft mints, and I'd mix them together. So it'd be toffee, mint, and maybe a bit of chocolate. Like just mixing it all together, like in a, I don't know, like a washing machine or something, or a tumble dryer, or a mixer, I suppose, mixing it like a blender. And it was like I was like a little walking experiment. It was lovely. But then I'd always feel a bit ugh by the time I got home, because I just stuffed all this stuff down, and it was a little bit too much. A little bit too much sugar, even then. I'm trying to think of any other chocolate bars that I do like Ariel, the mint one. I do quite like mint flavoured stuff. What are they called? Mint. Oh, they're like boiled sweets, but they have mints. Mevies, bevies, heavies, wevies. What are they called? Mints. Wevies, levies, tevies, Murrays, mint Murrays. I don't know if they still make them, but I used to like them. Very nice. Now I'm just thinking about stuff that I used to enjoy. Because when I was young, I mean, there is a shop in town that does this still. But when I was young, all the, well, not going to say all, but my local one anyway, newsagents, or I used to call it sweet shop, and it was on the corner. In fact, it wasn't a newsagent, it was just a sweet shop. Yeah, it was on the corner. Oh my goodness. Wow. How weird is this? I just remembered something that I'd forgotten for like 40 years. Can you believe that? See, here's a memory. I've not forgotten. This isn't a memory that I'd forgotten, but I'd forgotten the complete memory. And now I realise where it was. So it was early 80s, maybe late 90s, but probably 80, maybe 81. Charlie's Angels was on TV. So it was possibly a Tuesday or a Thursday evening. I went to the sweet shop which was just round the corner. It wasn't far to go to from where I lived. Up the road. So basically, you come out of the house and just turn left, then turn right, turn left, turn right, or turn left, go up and turn right. But anyway, it wasn't far. But I just remembered, because this shop, it was basically, he had a ladder that he used to get up to get all these tubs of sweets, boiled sweets, bonbons, chocolate, sauces, sparkly things, all these kinds of sweets. And it'd be all these big plastic containers, all high up and low down, and there'd be chocolate bars on the counter, and you'd say what you want, and he'd turn around and he'd go and get it. And it's only until not this second, but a couple of minutes ago when I mentioned it, I have the memory of going there, and I have the memory of getting some sweets before Charlie's Angels was on TV, because back then Charlie's Angels was big show. And walking to that shop, getting some sweets, coming home to eat the sweets whilst watching. There was this one sweet, it was like bobbly and flat, but a bit bobbly, and it was pink, but it was mint and chewy. I can't remember what it's called. I like them. Well, I just realised that shop, the sweet shop that I used to go into for years, was the same place that I worked at when I was in a chip shop. It's the same building. It was the same entrance. And I didn't realise just till now. So I don't know what on earth was next to it, because it was a lot bigger than the shop. The shop was quite small, unless he lived in the back or something, and upstairs, I don't know. And then maybe he just kept all his sweets all stocked up, or he had a really big bathroom, I don't know. But the place was, the building was not small, but his shop wasn't big. And you go in, and pretty much you'd walk in, and you were at the counter when you got in there. There was no big long walk to get to the counter. And it was that exact building, that exact same shop as the chip shop that I ended up working in '86. Wow. How strange is that? I completely forgot until now. I wonder what other things I've forgotten. Because this is the stuff that interests me. Remembering things that, I guess I thought I'd forgotten, but was still there inside my memory. I mean, arguably it wasn't the most exciting memory. Perhaps not as intriguing and invigorating and on the edge of your chair sitting story that I thought it was when I told you, but I find it kind of interesting that I was able to remember something that I'd completely forgotten. In fact, I'd even forgotten that used to be the sweet shop when I worked at the chip shop. So I'd forgotten that building was the chip shop, was the sweet shop, sorry. I forgot. Even then. in 1986, because it was a sweet shop probably until maybe 1983, 84. How weird. That's really strange, isn't it? Wow. Yeah. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Do I any have other favourite chocolate or... Does ice cream count? I do like... I tell you one of my... Oh, what was it called? Oh, what's that chocolate, that ice cream covered in chocolate and freckles of like nut, and then you bite into it and eventually you've got like a bit of chocolate on a... Oh, it's been so long since I've had an ice cream bar. I used to know all the names of the ice creams, but it's gone out of my head. It's left me head for some reason. Yeah. Right. Thanks for that. So Maria asks me, do you have a favourite all-time comedian from your time at the comedy club, famous or otherwise? Thank you. Okay, Maria, thanks for that. All-time favourite comedian that... So what I'll do, I'll only focus on comedians that I've seen live, whether at my comedy, well, the comedy club that I was involved in, or any other comedy club, or someone that I performed with, or, you know, I was on the same bill. But no comedians, not going to talk about any comedians that are around, that have come afterwards, or that were before, or anyone in America, apart from the ones I see live. So, as far as comedians, there's two comedians that made me laugh the most in a live show in my memory. And one was Dennis Leary. So he came over from America, but I saw him, I basically followed him around for, I think he was here for about 2 weeks, and I went and saw him at every opportunity. So I saw him at probably 4 different clubs, and he was just hilarious. I just, honestly, he's one of the first comedians that I'd seen that just had me laughing all the way through, uncontrollably laughing. Another one, very similar situation really, is a little bit later. It was Jerry Sadovich, and it was in a little club. I'm not sure if I performed, or if I was performing that night, or I just went there to watch him. But it's in a room above a pub. It wasn't a big audience, but he was so funny. I mean, it wasn't a small audience, but there was probably, couldn't have been more than like 50, 60 people there, so it wasn't a big space. There was no stage. He just stood on the same level as the audience. So funny. I was laughing. I really laughed loud. Just. So they're the two that made me laugh the most at a performance. You know, yeah. So them two. They're not my favourite comedians, which is probably a weird thing to say, but if I was going to choose my favourite comedians, and I've got respect for anyone that will go on stage and perform, because it's not easy, and anyone that can actually be successful, like, wow, that's amazing. It's like good for them. But as far as favourite performers, favourite comedians, I do like Jimmy Carr. Jimmy Carr's funny. I find him funny, and I used to know him as well. So I saw him for years performing at comparing at the club, So I knew him. I didn't know him really well, but I knew him to chat to, and I saw him perform on stage probably at least 100 times, if not more. So I knew his act inside and out at that time, but not anymore. So I guess I didn't appreciate him as much because I kept seeing him. He was doing a lot of the same stuff, which is just normal for comedians. If they move around, they do the same. They might have like 4 gigs in one night and perform the same act 4 times in a row. But the audience, to them, it's new because they've not seen it before. Especially on the London circuit, where most of the comedians are not famous. Well, a lot at that time, most of them weren't known, so people would see them for the first time. So what seemed like ad-libbing, or it might seem like the comedian was making stuff up on the spot, when actually they weren't. It was finely tuned, honed material from years of doing it. But I'm just trying to think my favourite. That's what problem I had. One of the problems I had, apart from not being very good, is I didn't have the discipline to go on stage and perform the same material. It bored me performing the same material. I wanted to write new material, and the new material was no better than the old material. None of it was particularly great. I had a few good one-liners, but it was I didn't, and it also depended on what mood I was in about how I performed. I mean, there was one gig I did where it's actually for the same promoter. So I only had 2 promoters that would give me regular gigs, paid gigs. One was Dolly, and the other one was Zed. Dolly was a fellow comedian like me. She was quite new, but she was a good promoter, and we were friends, and she gave me gigs wherever she was. She opened up little clubs around London area. She had one really good one, a big one in can't even remember where it is now, or where it was. I wonder if it's is it still running? I'm going to check this now. I wonder. No, it's been running since 2002. That's long after mine was the 90s. I wonder if, because so there was a comedy club called the Crack Comedy Club, and she had to change her name to Crack, as in the Irish version, which is Craik, I think. And it was a really good club, really good. I wonder, courses, learn stand-up. Okay, so I'll go back. If I put in the original name, what's going on? Okay. Maybe it's not running anymore. It's possible. I mean, sometimes, even if a club's really... Oh, it is. It is. But it looks like this one is in Ireland. Let's have a look. About. The Crack Den Comedy Club is where Ireland's best comedians take to the stage. So yeah, it's in Ireland. No, I thought it was at Wimbledon. The Crack Den Comedy. Okay. I remember her name, Dolly Dupree. It's weird that I remember her name, but I do. The Comedy Club must include Dolly Dupree. Dolly Dupree, Dolly Dupree, Dolly Dupree. Nope, can't seem to find it, but she was really good to me, so that was nice. And Zed, my friend Zed, he had a club called Chicken Reggie's, and again he had like a really, really big one on a Sunday night, big audience, but he also had other ones dotted around like in pubs and stuff. So everyone loved Zed. They really did, because he was lovely. But one of the things he did is he'd put on a comedy night, and he'd get good acts. He'd also give people like me a chance. Plus, he was my friend anyway, but he gave people like me, an opportunity to do a gig, and if we did well, he'd pay. But something that he was known for is he always paid the acts, regardless of what the audience was like, how many people turned up. Even if no one turned up, he would still pay the acts. So he was able to get big names on the circuit to do his gigs, because he'd arrange a payment, and he'd pay probably as much as any of the other clubs. Maybe not the Comedy Store, but like the normal clubs. So whether it's £100 or whatever it was back then, he'd pay the acts that money. So guaranteed he got decent acts, and everyone liked him, everyone respected him. And he did compare himself. But the audience, because he was friends with the audience, it's almost like he invited his friends to come along, and it was a Z party. It was a really nice atmosphere. Really, really nice. So I'm thinking, if I was going to say my favourite stand-up comedian in this country, out of those that I met whilst doing comedy or ones that I saw on stage, Stuart Lee, number one. Stuart Lee. Yeah. A short answer. So yeah, Stuart Lee was I was going to say he's probably my favourite. Now, the answer would have been different in the 90s. I had a few. I would say my favourite, for a while, my favourite comedian was Mark Thomas. Absolutely loved Mark Thomas, and I wanted to be him. I was never going to be him, but I wanted to be him, because it was nice to me. But that again, so was, I used to see Stuart Lee quite often. I did quite a few gigs with him, and he was always nice to me, and he treated me as an equal, and I wasn't. He was a headliner, and he's got a huge following around the world, actually, but he's got a huge following, and he does a lot of live gigs. I think he's written books, he's had DVD, he's done specials on Amazon or Netflix, one of them. But he was never up himself. He never put me down, even though I was pretty much useless at the old stand-up. he was nice to me. I did find that quite often with some of the really good comedians. They didn't need to be horrible because they were very secure, I guess, in their own abilities. There's some other comedians I will mention. So Stuart Lee will be, I put him at the top. Now, in the 90s, there was a few that... There's one particular one, Mark Lamar. Now, Mark Lamar did comedy. He didn't do it for a long time before he was discovered and got on TV. So I saw him quite a few times before he got on TV, and he started doing the Big Breakfast rather, The Word, and this is the early 90s. And then he did the Nevermind the Buzzcocks. He did a couple of other things as well. So he's, he established himself as a TV star. And he's got radio shows. I think he still does radio shows. Now, I remember in about late 90s, maybe 2000, he came and did a gig, but he was doing a live... I don't know if he did a gig or he just... No, I think he actually did a gig. It was like my friends... It was the celebration of the 10th anniversary of the comedy club, something like that. So Mark Lamar and quite a few other big names came along and did a show. So it was a special, like, one-off thing. Maybe it was for charity, something like that. And so Mark Lamar was there, and I said to him, I don't even know if he remembers me, if he remembered me at that point, because I'd done gigs with him, 8-9 years earlier. But I said to him, you know what? It's really weird. I'll tell you what's weird about you. And he looked at me like, huh? And I said, what I don't understand is you're on TV, so you're a big star, obviously you're making lots of money and stuff. But I didn't say it rudely, but so you don't come across, your stand-up ability does not come across on TV. And he said, what do you mean? I said, it's like when you were doing the Word, and when you were doing... What people don't realise is that you were one of the best comedians this country had. So he started listening to me. Now, what Mark Lamar could do is... I once saw him on stage, and it was at the... Looking forward to Christmas this year. I want to celebrate Christmas because I want to make some changes in it. I know I've moved on from... I'm coming back to Mark Lamar. It's really got me thinking, though, the last month, is maybe it's introspection, isn't it? But also outrospection, because I'm also looking at my surroundings. It's not really just how do I feel, but looking around and having a different perspective. Because, since 2000, this will be like 1, 2, 3, 4, potentially 4 losses, just in those 5 years. And 2 of the biggest losses of my life was Luke and Andre. So without getting all heavy and stuff, and now with Uncle Sausages, I'm just like, perhaps I need to be a bit more appreciative of what I do have. Yeah. And I'm thinking, I always loved Christmas when I was a kid. Haven't loved Christmas since I was a kid. But I do love the build up to Christmas. Christmas itself is a time when I'm on my own and I'm not particularly jolly. But I do like the build up. And really, I think the thing that's missing is probably just being a kid again, having loads of presents. You know, I suppose I quite like to just go back to that. I know I can't go back to that, but just be opening loads of presents on Christmas morning in my pyjamas in the park. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, just anyway. Back to Mark Lamar. I once saw him. Not Stretton. It wasn't Streatham. Oh, it doesn't matter. But it was a big gig. There was probably 300 people there, at least. That's quite big for a gig, like on a comedy circuit. But it was back then. And he'd just been to see, or he said he had, just been to see what's his name, the rapper? Can't fix this. Not can't fix this. Can't fix this. Can't beat this. Can't. MC Hammer. What did his? Can't fix this. Ooh, whatever. Anyway, it was MC Hammer. So we went to see MC Hammer at Wembley, I think. Or maybe, I'm sure he said Hyde Park, but why would MC Hammer be at Hyde Park? That's going to be it. I'm going to Google that. MC Hammer at Hyde Park. Hyde Park, 1990. 1991. Wow. Images of MC Hammer at Hyde Park in 1991. Really? He was a... What a weird thing to remember. He did 48 concerts on his world tour in 91. So let's just go to UK. So he came to the UK May 2013. Wembley Stadium, Wembley Stadium, Wembley Stadium, Wembley Stadium, and then GMEX Centre, which is in Manchester, Wembley Arena. Wembley Arena, Wembley Arena, National Exhibition Centre. So that's 3rd of May, 2nd of May. Let's go next. So where this sounds about right in the summer, but where does it say Hyde Park? I'm not seeing any Hyde Park. Wembley Arena. Maybe it was just an appearance. I don't know. I can't see any Hyde Park here. But when I put it in, it did come up. Hyde Park. Please Don't Hurt Him World Tour. Huh. That's weird. There's actually a video on YouTube. It says classic. Maybe it was at Wembley. It was somewhere. I mean, it was quite late. To be fair, I think he went on stage about 11 or 10 or 11, Mark Lamar did. So maybe he had been to the concert and he came straight there. So, but I said, what he did, he talked about MC Hammer, but there was one point where there was someone sitting on a table in front of the stage, and Mark Lamar looked down at him, and the bloke was just looking at the table. And Mark Lamar, it says Mark Lamar, he got about 10 minutes worth of material just by the person looking at the table. He was that good. He just ad-libbed. That's what he was so good at. I mean, I know he had material and he probably used some of it before, but he could talk, it wasn't all rehearsed. And he was so good, honestly. He's one of the best stand-up comedians I ever saw, as far as skill and how he could just get material out of nothing. And I remember saying that to him, and he said, well, he agreed with me, actually. Very few people disagree when you tell them that they're great. But no, he said, because he was on tour, he just finished his tour, and he hadn't been on tour for years. He did a tour when he first got famous, and he did another one, this is probably 99, 2000, something like that. And he said he couldn't believe the amount of people that came up to him afterwards and said, well, that was really funny. Didn't expect it to be that funny. I'm like, why did you come and see me then? So they were going to see him because he was hosting Nevermind the Buzzcocks. He was a television celebrity. But they didn't realise that he was really funny. Stand-up, And yeah. But I'd say now Stuart Lee. Oh, wow! I forgot one of the main people. What's his name? Sean Locke. I'm trying to think. I was going to try and look it up, but yeah, Sean Locke. Sean Locke. He unfortunately is not around anymore. But there was two comedians. When I was on the circuit, there was only two comedians that really everyone got, like all the other comedians seemed to get excited to watch. One of them was Eddie Izzard, and the other one was Sean Locke. Those two were the ones where the comedians would go and see them, or if they were doing a gig, let's say if they were doing a show in a theatre or they were doing a gig, they'd turn up to watch them perform because they were so good. Now, Eddie Izzard was the king of stand-up in the 90s. I mean, he'd already... Did I tell you what he did, Eddie Izzard? He, or she now, but what Eddie did... What Eddie did was, I think he actually paid to rent out a theatre in the West End, and he put on his own show, and it became a huge success. And I think I saw him twice live. He compared this show. It was like a small gig, but it was his gig, and the audience were there to see him. You know, they weren't there to see the other acts. They were there just to see him, and they would have been happy just to watch him all night because he was so good. And Sean Locke was another one where the other comedians would get excited to see him. So the comedian, both of them were kind of at the top of the list back then. The amount of times I heard people saying, "Oh, Sean Locke's on at the, he's at the Comedy Store tonight, or he's at the Comedy Cafe, or he's at Jongleurs," and the comedians that they'd finished their night, they'd go and see him. It happened less with Eddie Izzard because he was famous earlier, so he was doing sold out theatres and travelling the world, so he was kind of the most famous comedian pretty much from the circuit at that time. All-time favourite comedians, yeah, so I'm going to say Stuart Lee, but I've respected lots of them. Um, Alan Davis, I really liked him, and he was always really nice to me. Although he was a little bit cheeky. So Alan Davis, he's gone. He went on to do TV shows and stuff, and he's what was that? There's a TV show that he's on regularly. A couple of TV shows he's on regularly. But I remember I did a gig with him, and I said to him, "If this doesn't go well, I'm quitting." Because he used to chat to me. He was a headline act, clearly going places. He'd won awards, and he was just so down to earth and friendly to me. Didn't I don't, some comedians weren't, but he was. So he was very friendly, and he just laughed. And we just have a laugh. And he said, "Oh," I said, "if this doesn't work out tonight, I'm quitting." And then the next time I see him at a gig, is it a different gig? But I walk in, I sit down, and he said, "Oh, I thought you'd quit." And he started laughing, and I thought it was so cheeky because it didn't go very well, that gig that I'd had. But it's like, really? And it tickled him. But the fact is, he remembered me. It's like, okay, that's nice. It's nice to be remembered by someone that is in that world. He was a superstar, like Eddie Izzard, Mark Lamar, Mark Thomas, Kevin Day. The list is quite long, to be fair, but they were all really big stars on the circuit. They were even if they weren't on TV yet. Harry Hill, people like that, you just knew. It was so obvious that they were going to go on to be TV stars. Ardlo Hanlon, although I never met him. Yeah. And then there was others that never became TV stars, and they were just as good, just as funny. For whatever reason, they didn't go on to be big stars. Someone like Boothby Graffo, phenomenal performer, but he never went on to be a huge star. There was another one, I forget his name, but he was doing theatres. He was really doing well, but he never went on to be a star. Never went on to be on TV or anything like that. And it's not because his material was adult, because it wasn't. I don't know what happened. It's not everyone fits the mould, I suppose, or not everyone fits in with what the TV people want. Yeah, I'm going to stick with Stuart Lee. But as far as heroes, I would say Mark Thomas. He was one of my heroes of comedy. But I really liked Stuart Lee because we used to chat and stuff. So he was always nice. He used to be able to, I forget what the right word is, but he could break down someone's act and tell me a joke. So he would tell me a joke in another person's style. So, for example, he said, "Oh, Mark Thomas," because I think I was gushing about Mark Thomas to him. He said, "Okay, here's what Mark Thomas does," and he told me a joke. He basically said something, and this is a joke in the style of Mark Thomas, and it was. I was like, okay, but it didn't have the same delivery as Mark Thomas, because Stuart Lee's very laid back, very chilled out. Mark Thomas is very kind of edgy. He was quite edgy back then, and he talked fast, and I absolutely adored Mark Thomas. I really did. I used to see him, and he actually put me on the list. He gave me his telephone number, and he put me on the list for his Comedy Store performance. So I went along and watched it, and he was really cool. And he's also someone that remembers. He remembers people. So I saw him years later when I was dealing with the comedy club, and he'd walk in with his shorts on because he was doing a charity gig, and he just turns up. "You right?" Like I saw him yesterday, and like he was just like a normal person. I mean, he's a normal person, but you know, to me, regardless whether he's still on TV or not, he'll always be a star because he was. You know, another person you could say you could argue saying the most famous person is I used to do a lot of gigs with this person, and he's also someone that I used to talk to quite a lot. He was nice. He was at university while he was doing comedy, and then he went on to be well known, be a really headliner act, and I think wrote books, did radio, did some TV, all that kind of stuff. Spider-Man's dad, Tom Holland. Not Tom Holland, Tom Holland's dad. So is Spider-Man, Tom Holland, his dad is Dominic Holland, and he's a stand-up comedian. And it's really weird because I met him long before Tom Holland was born. Before he was married, before Dominic got married and stuff and had kids, still at university. And he was so lovely, so friendly. Another one, Harry Hill, was really friendly. He's a bit of shall I give you a little bit of information about Harry Hill that you wouldn't know unless I told you, unless you already knew. You wouldn't know unless you know. If you already knew, then it's nothing new. I think. In about 90, I think it was 92, Harry Hill, it was almost like they knew he was going to be a star. And he went on to be a star. I mean, he still is a star. He's a very famous TV celebrity, and I used to love watching him on TV when he did his TV burp. And it was funny. It's really funny. So I saw him right from the beginning. And they announced in Time Out and maybe somewhere else that they had changed his name, because initially his name was Harry Hall, Hall, and they announced Harry Hall will now be changing his name to Harry Hill because another celebrity or performer had the name Harry Hall and they were not happy that he was using that name, and they had it registered with whoever you register your name with. So Harry Hall was his original name. Then he changed it to Harry Hill. And let me see. So I'm going to check this up, see what it comes up on his. So Harry Hill. Look at his Wikipedia page. Right. Born Matthew Keith Hall. That's his actual name. Is Harry a short name for Matthew? I don't know. So his original stand-up name was Harry Hall. Blimey. He won the Perrier Award for Best Newcomer at 1992 Edinburgh Festival Fringe. Best Newcomer, yeah. I remember that. And then he went on to... He did Harry Hill's TV Burp from 2001 to 2012. Wow. I used to love watching that. Oh, he did You've Been Framed. Yeah, so he's another one that was really lovely. He seemed to turn into his character though. So he's got this character on stage, and I noticed that he seemed to be, when I saw him off stage, which was fairly often before gigs, it seemed like he was just turning into that person. Maybe that just was the person. But he was definitely brilliant comedian. Saw him loads of times. Very funny. But yeah, I'm going to stick with Stuart Lee because the deconstruction that he does, I like that. He kind of deconstructs his own jokes before he tells them, and it's so well written, and my stomach's gurgling, which makes me think, when did I have my breakfast? 6:30, 7:30, 8:30, 9:30. Oh, it's time to have something to eat. Yeah, it's a Stuart Lee. The next question, Ing. Which member of the royal family do you like the most? Now, I'm not saying this to be controversial, but none of them. No, I'm not saying this to be controversial, but the only member of the royal family that I ever really liked, other than the Queen, would be Princess Diana. Princess Diana was my favourite. Now, I realise you're probably talking about ones that are still alive. I don't really feel any connection with any of them, to be honest with you. I felt, I don't know, not connection, but I love Princess Diana. Not loved her, but she was, from a very early age, she was the princess. She was the most famous member of the royal family, really. And then you got the Queen, and I've grown up seeing the Queen, but I really have not had much interest in the royal family ever. I've watched 2 royal weddings. I watched Princess Diana and Prince Charles, at the time Prince Charles, now King Charles, and I watched the Prince Andrew and Fergie get married, Sarah Ferguson get married in, was it 1987, I think. Outside of that, I've not watched any of the other weddings. And I think really the way that they're being treated by the press, and yeah, I just don't. I'm not in. It's almost like if you read the newspapers, so much about the royal family, and none of it interests me. So yeah, it's not really. If you're in this country, the royal families, either you really like them, or you're not bothered. I mean, I know some people are anti, but I'm not anti anything really. Not really, I'm not that interested in it to be against it. But yeah, not really, never really been that involved in the royal family. I mean, even the other day I was in the hospital because I've been going up and down for a month to the hospital to see Mr. Sausages, and a couple of weeks ago there was all these police and security and cameras and stuff. I didn't realise it was Prince William's wife was there. My stomach's proper gurgling, isn't it? I didn't know she was there. I couldn't see her because she was surrounded by police and camera people. It's only when I left that I was told, oh yeah, Princess of Wales was there. And I thought, no. See, this is how my mind works, and it's very small-minded and it's very petty. There's only ever going to be one Princess of Wales during my lifetime, and that is what's her name? Diana. And there's only ever going to be one Queen, and that's the Queen. I know there's going to be other Queens. Hopefully there'll be another Queen in my lifetime, if I'm lucky enough to see Kate become Queen. But to me, my Queen is the Queen, the proper Queen that was Queen for thousands of years or whatever, that passed away 3 years ago. She was my Queen, and Princess Diana was the only Princess of Wales. And Prince Charles was the only Prince of Wales. It's weird, although, his son's now Prince of Wales. So I don't really recognise that. I don't not recognise it. It's just, when I think of the Princess of Wales, I think of Diana. I can't help it. And I know that she hasn't been around for 25 years, but hey, no, nearly 28 years. That's just what I remember. That's what part of my memory, because there hasn't been a Princess of Wales, is there? Until more recently, like, I don't know, whenever, what's her name, married Prince William. So, yeah, I don't like any of them. I don't dislike them. Don't get me wrong, I've got no issue with any of them, but I don't have any kind of feelings about them. It just, yeah, it's a different world. They have a different life to me. I've never been anywhere close to that kind of lifestyle, and I don't understand it, and they don't understand my lifestyle. It's beyond understanding. To be raised in a palace, having everything done for you, never ever having to be concerned about money, just those kinds of things. But again, at the same time, I don't have to be concerned about, thinking where am I gonna, where shall I go on holiday, and where shall I, what kind of really expensive food shall I eat today? Because that's what they've got to worry about. I don't know what it'd be like. I don't know. So I don't really relate to it. That's a proper gurgly tummy. Wow. But at the same time, I know that the royal family is very popular in other countries. But here, it's not really. It's like I don't know. I'm not really in touch with the common man and woman, I guess, because I'm so secluded. So I can't really talk on behalf of anyone but myself. I am aware that whenever there's a royal function, the streets are full of people. Whether it's a marriage, whatever, hundreds of thousands of people pave the streets. But I also know it's in London, and a lot of those people are going to be tourists. So they're not all going to be people from England that are kind of, into the royal family. So there's going to be some people that absolutely adore the royal family and have got nothing but royal memorabilia around their house. And there's other people that are all about a republic and they don't want royalty and all that stuff. I'm not on either side. It is what it is. It's here. I don't watch any of the royal stuff on TV. Just don't. Yeah, it's not really something. I did watch the coronation street of Prince Charles becoming King Charles. I watched that because it was such an iconic moment, and the chance of seeing a monarch being crowned is something that I'd never seen before live. I think there might be film footage of the Queen being crowned in 1842 or whatever, whenever she was crowned, but it was, yeah, it's an iconic moment. So I watched that. So I quite like that. I suppose if you'd have asked me this question 20 years ago or 15 years ago, my favourite royals would have been William and Harry. So when they were young men, when they were like in their 20s, Harry was a funny lad. He was cheeky and he was getting up to no good, and and William always came across as nice. Both of them came across as nice. And then as they got older, they both went and did a lot of stuff for charity. I think Harry did the Invicta Games. William did a lot for mental health charities, and I think I've always had a little bit of a soft spot for those kids. Firstly, because I saw them, I remember seeing them not being born, but like on TV as little babies, and their mother was Princess Diana, who was the future king. She was the future queen. Yes, that's what kind of was supposed to have happened, isn't it? The future queen. And the most famous royal out of all of them. And then, yeah, I kind of felt for the kids. I felt for the two young ones, Harry and William. And as I saw them grow up, I just thought, yeah, they're good lads. They're about 10 years younger than me, I suppose. Because maybe 12 years, 13 years. So it's not a huge age difference, but I think they were born in the early 80s, weren't they? Yeah. So I'm thinking Princess Diana. But out of who's around now, I suppose the king. The king really is. He's the only one that's been there the whole time. Prince William, now King, Prince William, Prince Charles, now King Charles. Everyone else, and Prince William and Prince Harry, they're the three that have kind of stayed in the spotlight, really. So I suppose I'd probably say Harry and William would be my two favourites, for different reasons. I think they both. If you change the question to who would I like to meet, so let's say the question was who would I like to meet out of the royals, it would be the three. It would be the king and his two sons. I'd quite like to meet Fergie. I know technically she's probably not royalty anymore because she divorced Andrew, but I've seen her do interviews, and she comes across as really a nice person. And she's done a lot for charities as well, as a lot of the royal family have. Because, just by getting that royal seal um, can boost a charity, and people fund and give donations to that charity because it's got the royal seal. And it can be the difference between them being around for a few years and then running out of money and stuff, and being around for decades and decades and decades, helping hundreds and thousands of people. Kate, what was your favourite band musician during your high school years? What did your friends listen to? I realise that's two questions. I don't know what my friends listened to because I took no notice of that, so I can answer that one straight away. I didn't care what anyone else did. When I was a kid, I knew what I liked, and that was it. I never listened to music with anyone else. Um, I used to like to listen to Elvis music with my oldest brother, but it wasn't current, because he was gone in like what 77. So my childhood really, music wise, I'd say started around 79 and early 80s, and I had no friends really to share that with, or at least I might have had, but I didn't ask anyone. I didn't, yeah, but I loved Top of the Pops. I loved pretty much most of the music that was around in the early 80s. There were certain songs that I loved more than others, and some that I didn't really care too much about. But my favourite singer was Shakin' Stevens. My favourite singer. Favourite bands back then. I can't remember. Did I have any favourite bands? Wham. That's a band, wasn't it? So Wham. Wham. Um, One of my favourite bands. Bros, but that was like late 80s. Um, yeah, sticking to the 80s. Madness. I love Madness. Culture Club. I love Culture Club. Paul Young as a singer. I love Paul Young. UB40. What's it? Stand and deliver your money or your life. That band. So Adam and the Ants. I did also. I noticed I quite like some of the older stuff. So I love Buddy Holly. So Buddy Holly, I mean, he wasn't around in the 80s, but I loved his songs. And the Monkees, that's another band I absolutely adored. So I used to listen to Buddy Holly greatest hits and the Monkees greatest hits, possibly more than any other album during the 80s. Well, during the early to middle 80s, late 80s. I mean, I wasn't a child anymore technically, but the late 80s I got much more into like George Michael's solo career, Bros, Stevie Wonder. Sort of middle 80s onwards, I really loved Stevie Wonder. Sort of discovered him. Michael Jackson, wow, yeah. So in my early childhood, I would have listened to Michael Jackson, but not necessarily knew who he was. In my really, by the time I got to about 10, like 9, 10, Michael Jackson was like, when I was 9, he was pretty much an adult at that point, and he was doing sort of like Off the Wall. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Those kind of songs. And I didn't really follow Michael Jackson And then, of course, he did Thriller, which nobody pretty much in the Western world would have not heard about, because it was just constant. Thriller this, Thriller that. And I liked it. I mean, I remember I watched the Thriller video on Channel 4 for the first time it was ever shown on British TV. I was allowed to stay up late to watch it. And yeah, I loved it. But I got bored with the songs because they were overplayed. It's like every time I turned the TV on, Michael Jackson was singing. And I just got a bit fed up with it. I don't want to hear it no more. Which is weird, considering how much of a big fan I came of his in, 86? Because Bad was my favourite album. I preferred Bad over Thriller. For some reason, I don't know. But probably the most listened to album I've ever listened to probably is Bad. Michael Jackson's Bad. And there's two songs from the 80s that I really, even today, are two of my favourite songs. One is Men at Work, Down Under, and Total Eclipse of the Heart by Bonnie Tyler. Two of my favourite songs from the 80s, from my childhood. But then if we go back a little bit, Grease. Loved Grease. Every song on the Grease album, loved it. Still do. So there was that period of time in the 80s when I would have the radio on and it'd play and it'd wake me up in the morning ready for school, and I'd be listening to it. And for me it was individual songs, not so, because I didn't really buy albums back then. I just listened on the radio. So Meatloaf and Cher, Addicted to Love, I think it was called, that one. That was my favourite song. But then, middle 80s, what's the colour of money? What's the colour of money? Some people think, me, I know it's mad. That's one. Hollywood Beyond, I think that was. And I loved that song. Just weird. Or, you don't have to take your clothes off to have a good time. Oh no. Love that song. On the wings of love, only the two of us together flying high. Love that song. Like, those individual songs, but I'd never used to listen to their albums. First of all, I didn't buy their albums. And so for me, when Now That's What I Call Music came out, and it'd be like the best hits of the year, or maybe they'd do 2 a year, maybe 3 a year, so just like break it down. I used to start buying those tapes, and I liked that a lot. And I'd re-listen to it over and over again. And yeah, that was, again, individual songs. I didn't care about the albums. I didn't want to listen to the albums. I mean, I did have albums earlier on in my life. So when I was like 9, 10, I had albums. I had the Bee Gees album. I used to listen to, I had Shakin' Stevens albums. Shakin' Stevens and the Sunsets. And I'd sometimes listen to some other albums that my dad had, or that they both had, which like music, film score music. So things like, what's it called? The spaghetti westerns with, what's his name? The Man with No Name in the Town with No Name. How does he get his mail? What was it called? Good, the Bad and the Ugly, and things like that. And then Star Wars and Superman and those kind of scores and music. And I used to just lay down and listen to that. It was lovely. It used to really relax me. And this is before I moved up to the room upstairs at the top of the house, so I must have been around 10, 11 back then. I'm trying to think what else. Yeah, so I would say that in Shakin' Stevens, number one. No, he was my favourite. And also, incidentally, Shakin' Stevens was the number one recording artist, singer, not band, the number one recording artist in the UK throughout the whole of the 80s. No one sold more records than him in the UK, a UK artist. So he was the king of the 80s, Shakin' Stevens. Behind the green door, ooh, ooh, ooh. There was a time when I really loved listening to 50s music. 50s and 60s, like Rubber Ball, I'll come bouncing back to you. And some of that stuff that was from my dad's, that he had on these 8-track tapes, really old tapes that just pushed them in. But they were good quality sound. And he had them from his childhood. Because my dad was born 46, I think. No. Yes, 1946 my dad was born. So his childhood was really through the 50s when he was listening to music. And then I guess he turned 15 in 1961. So it was his late teens and adult years, in the 60s. So yeah, I used to love listening to that. And another thing, when we went on holiday, we went to Wales, a long, long journey. So us kids would be in the back of the car. There'd be a trailer on the back. My dad would be driving. I think they'd take turns driving. And he used to play there'd be a mixture of Beatles songs. My dad's a big Beatles fan. And like rock music. Get your motor running, hit on the highway. That one. A lot of songs like that, which were really good for driving to. I need to ask him one day what those songs were, because a lot of them I couldn't even tell you. Vinny snores. Did I ever tell you that? Okay, so I feel I covered that. Anne asks me, do you play any instruments? The answer is no. There's not a very long answer to that one. I used to play. When I was in junior school, I played the violin. Not very well. When I was in high school, I was in the Sea Cadets and I played the bugle. Not very well. And then I played the drums in the Sea Cadets. Not very well. Then I played the glockenspiel, even worse. And then what else did I play? I'm sure I played something else. That's enough, isn't it? I did learn to play the guitar in the mid-90s, like 96, 97. Not very well again, but I did learn the chords, and I splashed out a little bit on a nice guitar. I think I spent like £250 on this guitar, so it was a good quality. It was quite a lot of money back then. It was good quality, the strings were good, the sound. Well, basically, what I decided is, if I'm going to sound a bit rubbish, then I might as well do it on a nice guitar, because even a rubbish sound sounds better on a good guitar. And I figured out that I wasn't motivated to get the sounds correct and get the chords right if the guitar sounded rubbish as well. So I kind of got a decent guitar with a really nice sound, good strings, good quality. So it was more enjoyable listening to it, and it was easier to learn to play it because the sound was nice. So when I did manage to get the chords right, it sounded nice. It might not have sounded correct, but it sounded nice. But then I was sharing a flat. This was like late 96, 97, early 97, and I had this guitar, and my friend who was sharing a flat with me really didn't seem to enjoy my practicing. I remember he said to me, all I can hear is this, and it was like do 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 do. He said that's all I hear all day long. And it was like, I said, I'm practicing. He said, what for? I had no answer for that. It's like, why are you practicing? Are you going to be in a band? No. Are you? He got so. He said, do something else. Play a different song, a different tune. I was annoying him a little bit. So I went into my bedroom and I decided I was going to play the same tune, but just try and do it louder so he could really enjoy it. I tried the mouth organ. So when I was working as a security guard, I thought, you know what? I can learn a new instrument. Mouth organ's small. I've literally got 12 hours in a night to just practice. So maybe I could be quite good at this. But I realised once I started that I didn't like it. So I never bothered. I kind of gave it up. And then a few years ago, quite a few, probably 6, 7 years ago, I bought a ukulele. Still in my cupboard, still in the same box that I bought it. I've had it out about 3 times. It's still in there. And maybe one day you might not believe me. Perhaps one day, maybe the next recording I do, I'll get my ukulele out and I'll play it for you. When I say I play it for you, I don't know how to play it. I never learned. I think I'd need lessons. My stepmom did teach me a bit of piano, like chopsticks, stuff like that. But she did, because I think she had an A level in piano. She was very good, and she taught me the basics. And at the time, I could read music because I'd been playing the violin, so I knew how to read music. So it was quite easy to know where the keys were. In a sense, now I don't know because I've not read music for quite some time. But back then, it's quite easy, but it was very difficult because, in a sense of my hands were only little, the keyboard or the piano keys were quite large. It wasn't like it was one of those pianos that you put against the wall. It's like a proper old-fashioned piano, but it wasn't like a huge piano. But there was a certain amount of strength you needed to press down, and I just wasn't used to that, so it was a little bit different because I was probably 10 at the time, so it was very different. But I did like it, but not enough to really get involved, which is a shame because I do I do think that having a skill like that, being able to play a musical instrument, is such an amazing skill to have. And bearing in mind, I've played multiple musical instruments over the years, not for a long time, but I kind of had the opportunity. If I'd have stuck at the violin, I could have been, I could have ended up being really good at it. I did it for about a year. I was adequate, but maybe a year, yeah, I did it for a while. But maybe I could have been really good. But I quit. Like many things, I stopped doing it because I don't know why I didn't like it anymore. But I was having lessons. Unlike the drums or the bugle or whatever, I actually went to lessons, I think twice a week at junior school for the violin. And we did concerts and stuff like that. So there's one time I was on stage with one other person playing the violin. My parents were watching, and that was a bit nerve-wracking because the orchestra were all doing it together. Then suddenly, it's almost harder to do it with someone than just do it on your own, I found. Because if I did it on my own, it would just sound how it sounds. But to do it with someone else, it's to have to be in sync. We did it. I don't know how bad or good it was, I've got no idea, but we managed to do it. It's that is one thing that I wish I'd kind of stuck at, because I think I think I had quite a good ear for music, quite a good ear for tone. Potentially I could have been quite good. Yeah. So I think if I was going to decide which musical instrument would I have stuck with, if I could kind of go back and do that, the violin would be the one. The bugle was limited, I found. I learnt the bugle and it was just easy. And the glockenspiel, difficult, but doable, but it's very kind of lots of different keys and remember which goes where. The drums, probably more enjoyable because I got to hit things. Like I enjoyed it, but at the same time it was a lot of hassle because it was as big as me. The drum, I was like walking around with this thing that was really heavy because I said I was like 10, 11, big old things. So I would have preferred, if I was going to choose two instruments that I would have been good at, that if I could choose two instruments to be good at, it would be the guitar or the piano. I've had multiple keyboards over the years. I once bought a piano back in 2004, bought it and sold it then within about 3 days back to the same person and lost about 100 quid. And yeah, it's one of those moments of silliness. But I just had this idea of like being good at something. I think that's what it was. I wanted to be good at something, but I never found anything that either I wasn't interested enough in it to progress to a point of being any good, or I just wasn't very good at it. You know, I'd have loved to have been a good break dancer or a brilliant break dancer. I'm not a dancer. There's certain things that's not me. It wasn't, you know, it's kind of like it'd be good to be a basketball player, but that would be, I mean, I'm not saying it wouldn't be impossible, but it would be very difficult at 5'8" to become a basketball player when most of them are like 6'5" plus. You know, there's a big advantage. So, yeah, I think basketball was the only sport that I thought was quite cool because, you know, chucking at getting a ball in a basket or a hoop, that was quite fun if there was no one else around. So I quite enjoyed doing that, you know, from a distance and just trying to get the ball in, and I could spend hours doing that, but not if other people were around. I didn't want anyone getting in the way or trying to get the ball off me. That just took the fun out of it for me. So yeah, in short, really, no, I don't play any instruments, but, and I never will now. I think those days are gone. I don't have any interest in playing instruments now, but I very much admire people that can. Yeah, I do. So I suppose the thing I was best at out of all the instruments that I did play probably would have been the violin, because that's the one that I practiced the most, and I also, I think my family home enjoyed it, listening to it, to the screeching. But that is the one I practiced most, and it's the one I was actually having musical lessons for. Ah. Anyway, that seems to bring us to the end of this recording, and I'm going to go and get myself something to eat. I hope I've answered your questions. I know there's been a few, probably gone off the subject a little bit every now and then. Apologies, my friends. But thank you for listening. Remember to be kind to yourself, because you do deserve to be happy. And be gentle with yourself. You deserve to feel safe. Lots of love. Bye.